Hi, I'm Katy Wallace with Human Nature, and today I'm talking about tips for gut diversity. I'll be covering tips 5 through 8. Okay, tip number 5 is eat high levels of polyphenols. So, polyphenols are chemical components of plant foods that are especially beneficial for our health overall. There's a number of different polyphenols, and they can be a prebiotic, which means that they feed the good bacteria and help support the good bacteria and attract different species of good bacteria so you get more diversity. And they also inhibit the bad bacteria that tend to promote inflammation. And so that's another benefit of eating polyphenol rich foods. So this slide is a summary of the polyphenol-rich foods. So berries, especially dark berries like elderberry, blackberry, blueberries, blackcurrant, herbs and spices like clove, peppermint, anise, oregano, thyme, rosemary, etc. Those different Italian seasonings. So if you sort of lost some imagination with cooking, this might inspire you to look up some recipes where you can use these different herbs and spices, or some people will even get the powdered form of these spices and herbs and sprinkle them in, something else you're doing every day, right? So like a smoothie with a little bit of clove or ginger, which isn't mentioned here, but it would be another great example. Cocoa powder is another good one. So you could think about making like a hot cocoa with cocoa powder, or putting cocoa powder again in a smoothie, or making a mole sauce with cocoa. Vegetables, and I'll talk more about this in a minute. The vegetables that are very high in polyphenols include red onions and shallots. So you might think about when you're going to the store to buy onions, trying to rotate the different types of onions, get white onions one week, yellow onions another week, red onions. So the different types of onions have different polyphenols, and the more variety that you get over time can help with boosting gut diversity. Olives are another good example. And again, there's many different types of olives. You could rotate through different olives if you're a fan, as well as tea. And by tea here, I do mean tea leaves. So green tea or black tea. If you don't handle those caffeinated versions of tea, well, I'm sure many of the herbal teas are also very high in polyphenols. You can get tea with the blueberries or elderberries, for example, or the different herbs and spices in them. Tip number 6 is to fast every night for at least 12 to 14 hours. So this means that if you finish your dinner by 7 p.m., you should not eat again. You should not eat anything, no bedtime snack, nothing, until at least 7 a.m. or maybe even 9 a.m. if you're going for a 14-hour window, depending on the person. So there's many benefits. This comes out of an area of research on circadian rhythm, looking at the rhythm, different daily cycles that people follow and the benefits of having a different rhythm. And so what researchers are finding is that intermittent fasting, where you basically are fasting, you're only having water, you're not eating in the window, supports healthy gut bacteria. And it does this in a couple of ways. First of all, when you're not eating and you let your digestive system have a complete break overnight, it allows the gut bacteria to rest. So rather than eating, they're like resting and they're doing other things. They're repopulating. And so that's very good for gut health. Also, there are particular species that seem to benefit from the fasting. And I would say in my work with clients, when we test people's gut biome to see what good bacteria they have, we do often find there's an issue with the butyrate producing species, especially with people with digestive complaints or some other chronic health condition. So butyrate is a short chain fatty acid, and it's made by the bacteria, but it's really, really good for the gut lining. Like our gut cells really benefit from the butyrates, and our brain actually really benefits from the butyrates made by some of these key species. So fasting is one way to help promote gut diversity and get some of these specific benefits. Tip number 7 is to eat fermented foods. So fermented foods, I mean those that weren't just fermented and then pasteurized, right? If you went and you got like a can of sauerkraut at the store, it might be pasteurized, or like a dill pickle might have been pasteurized. So it's no longer going to give you the benefit of the live bacteria. So you want to eat things that are still alive. I mean, you can eat pickles and canned sauerkraut, that's fine, but it won't translate to a benefit for your gut bacteria the way that eating a live ferment would. Fermented vegetables contain these live microbes that help enhance our gut diversity. And one of the key ways that they do this is by breaking down the starches into lactic acid. So they're called lacto-fermented foods. So lacto-fermented vegetables or lacto-fermented yogurt. There's many different things. There's even jerky, sausage, things that include the lacto-fermentation process. And the lactic acid that's produced is actually really good for digestive issues. I like to use this in my practice for people with digestive issues because it can help a lot with constipation and other digestive issues like breaking down starchy foods that they might have trouble with. And the bacteria that do this actually play a role in suppressing the bad bacteria and promoting more of the good bacteria to come and populate. So that can be helpful. Here's just a clip on some of the studies that have been done with lactofermentation to show the overall improvement in the gut bacteria. And here's an example. This is my daughter Allison holding a jar of some sauerkraut that we made. So you can make it at home. Just smash up the cabbage or the radish if you're making kimchi, or you can eat pickled ginger. There's many different fermented foods that you can make. Typically, though, if you're wanting to support the gut bacteria, you do want to focus on fermented vegetables. I sometimes get a lot of questions about fermented things like kombucha or other fermented things for the gut. And for somebody who's really looking to improve their gut health overall, I wouldn't rely on ferments where a lot of sugar is used, because that's going to promote different bacteria than the kind that you want in your gut. So you don't, if you're looking, it's not to say that people can't have kombucha, a healthy person can't drink kombucha. Of course they can, and they do. But somebody who's got real issues and is looking to optimize or maximize things, you want to eat the ferments from the vegetables, because that's the type of bacteria you want to grow. You don't want to eat things that like sugar, because things that like sugar are going to tend to promote more inflammation and problems. Okay, tip number 8 is to eat special prebiotic sugars. So by that, I mean special fibers found in the vegetables, particularly onions and garlic, seem to be kind of at the head of the pack of the foods that are really good prebiotics. Here's a study just talking about the high fiber in the onions and garlic are so beneficial for the gut. Part of that is that they resist digestion until they get to the colon, where the Bacteroidetes group of bacteria can eat them. So if you like your onions and garlic, then this will be sort of self-promoting that habit.